So f is the parabolic function here. How would you go? How would you get that one, Jane? 6.1.
From the equation,
Yeah.
I would make y to be 0.
So we're going to have 0, which is going to be equaling to minus x squared minus x plus 6. Okay, what do we do from here? We'll get 1 mark for this.
And then from there, I divide by minus 1.
So if we divide by minus 1, divide by minus 1, divide by minus 1, divide by minus 1, and then you get 0 is going to be equaling to x squared plus x
Plus 6
yeah,
minus 6.
minus 6. Okay. And then what do you do from here?
And then I factorize.
Okay, we open 2 brackets.
Yes.
It says we have x, we have x. Yeah.
X plus 3.
X plus 3.
X minus 2.
X minus 2. Okay, you'll get another mark for this.
And then I say x equals to minus 3.
X is equaling to minus 3.
Or x is equaling to 2.
X is going to be equaling to 2. Ne? And then 3 and then 4. Okay. We are done with the first one. And then they say we want to get an axis of symmetry, number 6.2.
Mr. Auberg formula at turning point.
Okay, let's use that one. What is the formula for turning point?
X is equals to minus b over 2a.
Okay, let's go to the equation then. Here on our equation, what is A, what is B, what is C?
A is minus 1.
A is minus 1. What is B?
Minus 1.
Minus 1. Okay, what is C?
6.
Okay, then we're going to get minus open bracket minus 1 all over 2 multiplied by minus 1. And then if you were to type this in your calculator, so we got x is equaling to minus 1 all over 2. Sure. And then the equation of the axis of symmetry here, you'll come and tell them which x is going to be equaling to minus 1 all over 2. And then we'll give you 1, 2 for this. Next, they want the range. Here it's your arrow here. We're going to say which y is an element from negative infinity. Ne? And then you are still touching the graph. You are still touching the graph. You're still touching the graph. There's no way where the graph is breaking. You're touching the graph. 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 And then when you get here, you no longer touch the graph. Can you see that again?
Yes.
Yeah, so it means we no longer have any possible values of y here. So the last possible value of y that we had is here. This is the maximum value of y that we had here. So what is this value here? That's what we're interested in. This value here, we can get it by using the turning point formula. Again, we already got what is x at the turning point. So we'll then say what is going to be y at the turning point. Now that we know what is x at the turning point, we can try to find out what is going to be x at the turning point. And then we are going to do that by saying, okay, we know what is the equation. Your equation, it's given as, I think they gave us the equation as y is equaling to minus x squared minus x and then plus 6, okay? Yeah, and then we want to know which, okay, when x is minus 1 all over 2, what is going to be y? Then we'll say which y is going to be equaling to minus open bracket minus 1 all over 2 all squared minus 1 all over 2 plus 6. And we're going to type this in our calculator. Do you have your calculator there?
Yes.
Okay, let's try it. Type it. I will also type it this side. So I have minus open bracket
25 over 4.
You get what?
25 over 4.
25.
6,25.
25 all over 4 again. Now then it means the biggest value of y, this is the maximum value of y that we can have. The biggest value of y is going to be 25 all over 4. Then it means if they ask you what is going to be your range, you are going to say which y is an element from, we do have negative numbers, so y is going to be an element from negative infinity up until it gets to 25 all over 4. So you'll come and say we have 25 all over 4 here, included. Because we are touching this graph here, or this green line here, the graph and the green line, they're intersecting each other here. So it's going to be x is an element from minus infinity up until 25 all over 4. Or if you didn't want to write it this way, you're going to say which you have values that are bigger than 25 all over 4, and then you have values that are less than 25 all over 4. Bigger than 25 all over 4, you get them this side. Let's say this is 1, this is 2 here. Do you have any graph on 1? Do you see any part of the graph on 1?
No.
Yeah, and then you see the graph on 2 again.
Yes.
Okay, values that are at 2, are they bigger than 25 all over 4, or they're less than 25 all over 4?
Less than.
They're less than again. Yeah, so if you don't want to write it this way, you could have written your range this way. You can say which y is going to be less or equals to 25 all over 4. And then they will give you 1 mark for calculating the turning point. And then they will give you 2 marks for saying which this is going to be your range here. Are we still good?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we are going to 6.4.
Yes.
How would you get d then?
By calculating the y-intercept of f of
Yeah,
x.
so we'll say y is going to be equaling to minus 0 all squared minus 0 plus 6. And then it says which y is going to be equaling to 6. Then the coordinates of t are going to be 0 is to 6. Okay, we got that then. How do you get the equation then?
The equation,
Yeah, we're looking for the
I
equation of g
calculate
of
the
x.
gradient.
Okay, let's calculate the gradient. The gradient is going to be given by y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. And then here you'll come and say, okay, this one is x1, this one is y1. This one is x2, this one is y2. Okay, let's do this then. What do you get? Y2 is
1.
y2.
Oh, y2 is 6.
It's 6 minus open bracket. What is y1?
4.
4.
It's 4 close bracket all over. What is x2?
0.
0 minus open bracket. What is x1?
Minus 2.
Minus 2. Okay, you put this in your calculator then.
1.
If you get 1.
Yes.
Okay, we get 1. And then we can say y is going to be equaling to 1 plus c. Y is going to be equaling to 1x plus c. How do you get c?
I find any point, I substitute the what.
So you can use point D. Let's use point D. It seems to be simple. So you're going to have 6, which is going to be equaling to 0 plus C. And then it says C is going to be equaling to 6 again. Therefore, therefore, our line is going to be given as y is equaling to x plus 6.
Plus 6.
Yeah, and then we'll give you 1, 2, 3. Are you still fine?
Yes.
All right. Tebuko, you are next. We want to get the average between point A and point D.
Say.
Yeah, we just want to, you see, the difference between an average gradient and a gradient, they are not that much different, except which here on an average, because I can see it's carrying you. So 6.5. When they say they want the average gradient, you just put a bar on top here, but you're going to do it exactly this way. Nothing has changed. So you're going to have y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. I think they said the average gradient between A and D. So you take the coordinates of A and then you take the coordinates of D. And then instead of M, you just put M with a bar on top here. And then we're still going to get exactly the same thing here, which is going to be 6 minus 4, 0 minus minus 2, and then it's going to give you 1. Hence, you see, it's 1 mark here. They wanted to see which do you know what is an average gradient. So an average gradient and a gradient, they are more or less the same. It's just which they are talking about, since we are talking about a curve. A curve, you can't have the exact gradient here because there's a space between the line and the curve. So that is why we are calling it an average. So get 1 mark for this one. Jane, 6.5. If we reflect it by the x-axis, what happens?
The x values remain the same, and then the y values 10. We
Yeah, the
multiply
y
them by
values are going to
negative.
change. Okay? So you are going to have minus y, which is going to be equaling to minus x squared minus x plus 6. Okay? And then from here onwards, you can divide everything by this negative. So if you divide by -1, you divide by -1, you divide by -1, and then you divide by -1. It means we are going to have y, which is going to be equaling to x squared. And then we're going to have negative and negative, it gives us positive x. Okay? Negative and positive is going to give us -6 here. Okay, that is the first part. That is the first part. And then they also want us to do this. From here, they want us to take the same equation, and then they want us to translate it 3 units to the right. Okay, we have this equation here, and then we're going to put it in a turning point form. Now, let's put this in a turning point form. How would you do that? It's simple. You just want to know what is going to be the turning point here. The turning point of this thing here, you shouldn't worry about it. Remember, this thing here is reflected by the x-axis. If it's reflected by the x-axis, you go to the turning point. When you go to the turning point here, this is what you're going to see. Look at this. It's simple. X doesn't change. Okay? Remember, what did we get as our turning point? We got our turning point as -1.
1 over 2. -1 over 2 is 2.
-1 all over 2 and 25 all over 4 again. Yeah, let's do it this way so that maybe you'll see this thing. Yeah. So when we reflect this thing, by the x-axis, what's going to happen is that graph is no longer going to turn at -1 all over 2 and 25 all over 4, but your graph is going to turn at -1 all over 2 and -25 all over 4. Agree? We said y becomes negative. You remember that? Again?
Yes.
Yeah, but the x doesn't change. Because the x doesn't change, then the y is going to be the one which is going to be what? Negative. So if we're going to write that thing there in a turning point form, this is what is going to happen then. We're going to have y. We know what is our a. Let's check what is our a. I get that equation, we got it as x squared. It's similar to this one. Yeah, it's x squared plus x minus 6. So yeah, yeah, we want to take this equation here, and then we want to write it in a turning point form. If we're going to take this equation and write it in a turning point form, these are the turning point of this equation. These are the turning point of this equation. Okay? Now this equation has its a. What is a here?
1.
Okay. And then equation yet of a turning point form, it has the following. It says which y is going to be equaling to a open bracket x plus p all squared plus q. Now we are going to substitute these values here. We know what is a again. We'll start with to say we know what is a. What is a first?
1.
Okay, we'll put 1 then. We'll say, okay, a is going to be 1, open bracket. Now we know what is p. I get p here is -2, is -1 all over 2, Angish.
Yes.
Yeah, but when it gets here, I'm going to write it as x plus 1 all over 2, all squared. Remember, how do you get the turning point? I'm going to get the turning point by saying x plus 1 all over 2 is going to be equal to 0. How then would you get -1 all over 2? The only way you can get -1 all over 2 is that if you have positive here. If you have negative, you won't get -1 all over 2. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So here we are going to have plus 1 all over 2. And then from here onwards, Q, I can remember, Q, we're taking it exactly the way it is. We still remember.
Yes.
Mhm.
Now, when it comes to Q, I'm simply going to write it as minus 25 all over 4. So I have this thing here in a turning point form, which is something that I wanted. I'm not done. Now, what is it that they want? One, after getting this thing here in a turning point form, they want the following. Let's look at the following. What is it that they want? They want us to translate this thing 3 units to the right. So it means that you are going to go 3 units to the right, you're affecting X only, not Y. So if you are going to the right, right and left and right, they affect X. Up and down, they affect Y. So if we think about it this way, left and right, they're going to talk about P, they affect P. And then up and down, they affect Q. So if they were saying 3 units up, I was going to change Q. If they're saying 3 units to the right, it means I'm going to come here with the equation here that we just formed now. And then since I'm going to the right, I'm going towards the positive side. I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to have this equation as 1. And I'm going to have X plus 1 all over 2 minus 3 all squared minus 25 all over 4.
Oh.
And then these two are like terms. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah, if these two are like terms, then I will come and say, okay, what is going to be these two things here? I am going to have 1
Okay.
all over 2, ne? And then it's going to be minus 3. Then it means your equation now is going to be X is going to be minus 5 all over 2 all squared minus 25 all over 4. Then that is going to be the equation of h of x. And then we'll come and say, okay, this is h of x. H of x is going to be defined by the following equation here. Are there any questions so far?
No.
You are fine. Jane,
Yes. Yes, I'm fine.
you get it, man.
Yes.
All right. And then the next question here, it's an inequality question. You'll see what we have done this thing here before. It's an inequality. Okay? They say which f of x should be greater than 0. So this is f of x. You have your critical values here. These are your critical values. Okay? This is critical value number 1, critical value number 2. Okay? And then we have critical values here. We got them as Jane, you gave it to me. What were the critical values here? What were the x-intercept?
I don't remember.
We got them as
minus
-3.
3 and 2. And 2.
-3 and 2. Ne? Okay, here we'll come and say, okay,
Yes.
we have -3 and then here we have 2. Ne? And then they say greater than 0. Greater than 0, they are talking above the x-axis. So your graph is above the x-axis here. Agree your graph is above the x-axis there. Can you see that? Okay?
Yes.
Okay, what are the x values that are making this to be possible? That's what they're asking here. What are going to be the x values that are making this to be possible? So if you check here, the x values that are making this to be possible are these values here. All these values here, they're making it to be possible. Then we just have to write them. What are going to be those values?
-3, 2.
Yeah, so it's going to
2.
say it's -3 again.
Yes.
And then it's greater than, x is going to be greater than -3, but x is going to be less than what? 2. Or if you don't want to write it this way, you can say x is an element from -3 up until you get to 2. Because it's not included. I guess they didn't put any equal sign here.
Yes.